What is going on, everyone? Commodore Laz here today, bringing to you another One Piece manga discussion. In today's video, we'll be talking about the long-awaited Reverie arc, which is set to take place very soon as chapter 903. Now, I originally made a Reverie video discussing about this arc when we were back in Whole Cake Island in September, kind of discussing some topics and predictions in regards to this arc. But since now that we have some new information coming off Whole Cake Island that we could see be brought into this arc, I wanted to make a video regarding that. But if you want to go and see my thoughts from the last time I did a Reverie discussion, I'll have a link for that at the end of this video. But without further ado, let's jump into this discussion video. So, chapter 902 of One Piece concluded the Whole Cake Island arc, and with chapter 903 set to come out just before Golden Week is about to commence, it is finally time we head off to Mary Joie to get ready for the Reverie. Speculation regarding its length will be a debate amongst the community, but considering Logtown, Reverse Mountain, and Return to Sabaody were all 5 chapters long, we could see the Reverie have that same length. Now, I would like to see the arc actually be 10 to 15 chapters, depending on what form of information is revealed during the Reverie. However, I could see 5 chapters being an ideal amount, at least for now, before going into Wano. So we could see something where we have 5 chapters now covering some stuff, and then we jump to Wano. And then after Wano, we could have 5 more chapters. That way, in some form, the Reverie itself would still be 10 chapters, but it wouldn't be 10 consecutive chapters. Now, we already know that a ton of characters, both new and old, will be attending, from the Nefertari family, Dalton and Korea, Riku, and many more that we've seen from previous flashbacks, or from who we saw back in chapter 823 when we started to see those attending preparing to head off to the Holy Land of Mary Joie. Reverie has been something almost every fan of One Piece has been anticipating to see going all the way back to the Drum Island arc. With many kingdoms attending to discuss the current events in the world that have taken place since the last Reverie, it's going to be something to enjoy watching all these big shots sitting together at the same table. And there are many topics that will come up during the Reverie, and with Big News Morgans himself having departed Whole Cake Island, we can assume that he may be off to the Holy Land to relay the news of Luffy causing a ruckus in Big Mom's territory. Add that on top of him taking out 2 of her commanders, the information we already know from him taking down Doflamingo, causing a storm in the underground. His name is being heard loud and clear throughout the New World. So with all this coming up at the Reverie, we could very well possibly see Luffy's current bounty raised once again with what had happened taking place during Whole Cake Island. Considering what he did to earn his 500 million berry bounty back in Dressrosa, I could see it possibly rise another 100 million, and you'll have a 600 million berry bounty in the Reverie arc. I only say it will rise that much, but considering the trouble Luffy has caused since his return during the time skip, it could rise even more given the names he had taken down, one of them having the highest known bounty in the series. It could go either way regarding an increase or not, but his impact is not something that the world government will avoid keeping quiet any longer. While Luffy will be a topic of discussion, there are some other topics and even a couple of predictions I want to touch upon that may end up taking place in this arc or not. And one of those things that's going to be brought up, of course, is the relocation of Fishman Island, with the Fishmen moving up to the surface after the late Queen Otohime's petition was signed. However, an even bigger dilemma looms revolving around her daughter, Princess Shirahoshi. We know that Shirahoshi is joining her father, King Neptune, to the Reverie to strengthen the relationship between humans and Fishmen and to show that they are trustworthy. But the problem at hand is her true identity being revealed at some point during the Reverie. If something were to happen and she is revealed as the ancient weapon Poseidon, the level of danger surrounding her safety would be put in jeopardy. If the world government or even some of the guests were to learn of her true identity, they could very well attempt to seize her at some point during the meeting. Now, unless her cries were to call forth Sea Kings to make their way to Mary Joie, her powers would only have a real effect in the seas below, given what's been shown in the story thus far. Thus, Shirahoshi being captured would be a huge gain for those interested and a massive loss for the Fishmen, a possible outcome that could take place during the Reverie. As to whether or not the Fishmen are granted the relocation, it comes down to 2 things: whether or not the world government's word will be kept, and that Shirahoshi remains safe throughout the meeting. The second something happens to her, we can pretty much say that the deal will be off right there and then. Another topic that will have the full attention of everyone involved is the potential disbanding of the Shishibukai system. Admiral Fujitora had declared back in Dressrosa that after obtaining the role of Admiral, a goal of his was to see the end of the Shishibukai system. Hearing the news of Crocodile's failed coup d'etat from Smoker, he has become more aware that while the warlords offer military might, they cannot be fully trusted due to the actions caused by others exploiting their roles for personal gain. If the system were to be disbanded, that would mean 1/3 of the 3 powers would be gone and the world would fall into chaos. Fujitora says we'll have to wait and see when we cross that bridge, but I'm now doubting that they'll get rid of them since it would usher in more problems for the world government. And unless they were to have some kind of backup plan, I expect the Shishibukai system to remain intact, at least for now, until they're able to find a formidable backup plan to fill the void of the warlords disbanding. speaking of the warlords, if they won't be disbanded, I could very well see their numbers strengthen back to 7, as we could see new members joining them during the Reverie. After Law and Doflamingo were removed from their titles, the current number of warlords stands at 5, with Mihawk, Kuma, Boa, Buggy, and Edward Weevil. If they wish to keep 1/3 of the 3 great powers numbers intact, the world government could have maybe found some replacements to fill the void left behind by Dofi and Law. As to who those people are, it would probably have to be new characters we've yet to be introduced to in the story. So it's probably better to wait until the actual Reverie begins to hear more info regarding the state of the Shishibukai system. Now, another thing we could possibly learn during the Reverie are the names of the Gorosei. For many years, us fans of One Piece have wondered what their names are, and I've already talked about this in my last Reverie video, as their names could potentially have some form of connection to maybe the modern day, like real life, like rich families, powerful families in the modern world. And I'll have some like images and stuff that kind of show like some of the names I'm talking about, that they could have some form of connection if we were to get their names revealed in the story. We know their position in all of this, but we don't know their actual story. Like, we know the world they serve, but what is the history behind it? Like, how long have these guys been alive? When did they take control of the world government? How much of the world do they know about? They know information regarding the Void Century, in particular the name of the ancient kingdom, which was enough for one of them to demand Professor Clover's death before he could even say it. The wealth of knowledge they possess is possibly immeasurable, and considering how long it's been since we first met them back in Jaya, I believe the time is right to finally get more insight on the ones recognized as the leaders of the world government. And speaking of the Gorosei, surely another topic that will be brought up by one Nefertari Cobra is the information regarding the poneglyphs and what his ancestors of the past had done to the world long ago. The very thought of him saying this at the Reverie has me believing that his death is pretty much a guarantee the very second he asks the Gorosei. At the same time, I could see some form of information regarding the poneglyphs being revealed during this arc as a means to keeping the other kingdoms from splitting up. The other kings will feel like they can continue to believe in the world government's trust. Learning a bit of details could allow their ties to suffice. And finally, the last topic that I can see being discussed at the Reverie pertains to the supernovas and possibly their activities during the time skip. People that we haven't really seen, like Arouge and Bonnie's whereabouts and motives, could be learned here. I mean, we know of Arouge's battle with Snack going back to Whole Cake Island, but it would be nice to learn other details, including his possible bounty rise during the time skip. The very same could even be said for Bonnie. We maybe could find out what her ties are exactly to the world government, how she managed to escape from them, and the fate of her crew. And to throw in an extra element, we could see something very similar to what Bartolomeo had going back to the end of Dressrosa, with like a wall of posters that they have for the Straw Hats, and we could see something similar to that, whereas like the world government actually has all the posters for the supernovas laid out for everyone to see, and maybe that's exactly where we're going to be seeing Rouge and Bonnie's new bounties on like this like billboard wall kind of thing for everyone to see, as they could be a big part of the discussion during the Reverie. Because by that point in time, I mean, we can consider them a threat, but at this moment the world government would officially recognize them as a legitimate threat to their way of life. Earlier I had talked about Morgan showing up to inform everyone the news of Luffy during Whole Cake Island and what he had done, and at that very moment we could see a very similar parallel to what Thaziel Lucas had said about Dragon at the last Reverie, when he was holding up an image of him and said that if we don't take care of the problem soon, or we don't keep an eye on him, he could very well become a legitimate threat for us in the near future. And we could see the exact same thing with Luffy, is that if we don't be careful, we don't watch ourselves, this kid is going to be another dragon in the wait. The only thing being that that very future that they fear could be sooner rather than later. But those are pretty much all the topics and of course some of the predictions that I wanted to talk about in this video. But if there is anything I did not touch upon that you want to discuss down in the comments below, feel free to do so. And if you guys are new to the channel, consider subscribing to the channel, as I will be covering the Reverie arc through either live reactions or possible reviews going forward, depending on how things work out. But if you guys are interested in seeing that kind of stuff, definitely consider hitting the subscribe button, and make sure to like the video if you enjoyed the content you've seen today. And with that being said, I will catch you guys for chapter 903 hopefully this weekend. So Commodore Laz signing off. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, take care.